Hey everybody, welcome to our discussion of chapter 9. Can you believe we've done 9 chapters of this?
Do you know what we missed? We missed an opportunity.
What did we miss? What opportunity?
We didn't make any bankruptcy jokes last time. But we can do it in another couple of chapters.
There will be more opportunities for bankruptcy jokes?
Yes, chapter 11.
Oh, no shit. Yes, holy shit. I can't believe I didn't even think about that. Chapter 11. We can do chapter 11 bankruptcy jokes.
Turn here. Sparkles. Now I just have sparkles on the side.
I'm going to move the chat window over so that it's not in front of your face, since you're on the other side of the frame now. Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. I got it taken care of. Hey, I'm the one who makes it happen.
I'm not actually sorry.
I'm the one who makes it happen.
You push the buttons, Steve.
I push the buttons. So, yeah, how are you?
Pretty good, all things told. It's Friday!
Woohoo!
And I am not caught up with my grading, but I'm caught up enough that I won't have to spend the entire weekend grading.
Which is great. Fantastic.
Some random geek, they keep the river in a certain course. It's very important, for the ecology of the surrounding geography. That would have been a funnier joke if I hadn't had to make the words go.
So, you said when we were talking about this, Nick Hayden asks, "How's the new Superman show?" It's the first. There's only one episode so far, but it's excellent. The pilot episode was awesome. So far so good. But yeah, Dana, we were talking about this chapter, and you seemed kind of super excited to talk about this chapter.
Yeah, I think I've got notes on like every page set, but not all of them are a lot. But some of them get pretty extensive. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, like, yeah, okay,
it goes like all the way around. Stuff's underlined, stuff circled. There's yeah. So
so shall we
yes, he
so this is just to catch people up, because the way the book is structured, it's sort of present day flashback, right?
So we are on present day.
This is a present day chapter.
Yeah. And it's after the party. After the assault.
The morning after Shevik got drunk and sexually assaulted Vea. And so he's waking up to the sound of church bells, which is quite appropriate or inappropriate, depending on how you feel about that. And yeah, he's definitely not in
church bell mood.
Not in a church bell type of mood, either emotionally or physically.
I underlined everything. Everything became vile.
Yeah.
Oh, he feels so. He did a bad. He was a bad person.
Yeah, he's feeling bad physically. He's remembering like what happened at the party and feeling bad about that. Like,
and then here's the thing. This was interesting. Radical Bacon, you totally made it. We just started. Like,
you're good.
Yeah. We were just catching up that this is the morning. We've gone flashback, flash forward, and we're now in present time. This is the day after the party at the beginning of chapter 9. I underlined, he did not know that this paralyzing humiliation was a chemical sequel to getting drunk. And I underlined it and put, no, it's not. Like the
not
humiliation part.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. The humiliation. I mean, I guess the like the hangover, you could say.
The hangover is absolutely a chemical sequel. The humiliation
and the shame
does not have anything to do with. I mean, it's he was more. You could, some of what happened you could put down to having been drunk,
right?
But no.
Yeah. E.R. Mixon's Craziest Theories asks, but is he feeling bad enough? Nope. Nope, I don't think so. He did something really terrible, and I mean, and he is feeling bad about it, but it's mostly like self-pity. I mean, he's like embarrassed and ashamed, but he's not like, I mean, he did something really, really bad. Like he did something really, really, really super bad at the party. And there's even a line there where he says, it's described as it was not only poor Vea who had betrayed him. Like, what did Vea do to betray
Yep,
him?
I underlined that and wrote, how did she betray
Yeah,
him?
what did she do exactly? Other than
But
be there?
I think it's also that, the choice of the word betrayal is interesting. Yeah, it's he it's just all, but it's all muddled up in his head.
Yeah,
because he was confused, and and also the drunkenness. Mm-hmm. It makes it harder to sort of piece things together. It's like, this is what I'm supposed to do here. This is the here thing. I'm being like a here person. And then he's like, wait, I shouldn't have done that. I'm not a here person. I don't want to be a here person. I don't want to be a here person. And she was a here person, and I'm surrounded by here people, and I thought I was supposed to, and all the here people were there, like in the here, and I thought I was supposed to be like a here person, but I don't want to, but I was trying to be a good here person, and I shouldn't have done that. I should not have done that. And so just pain, the cramped position of pain, which is not, I mean, like, having been in a cramped position of pain, it's like on the bed, left side, curled up, head on a pillow that's relatively flat. Breathe slow and shallow so that you're not like not breathing, but that you're not moving much. You breathe really slow and just stay there on your left side, always the left side. I don't know why. For me, the left side is much more helpful than is always the left. Regardless of where that's what makes me feel better. It's that particular, don't pull in too close, because then and don't straighten out. You just want, just like a very loose fetal position. I don't know why. That's what works for me. I also underlined down towards the bottom of that page for me, the individual cannot bargain with the state. The state recognizes no coinage but power, and it issues the coins itself. And I'm like, yes, that's why you organize, which we get to see in a little bit. And we also see the results of that organization.
Oh, yeah. And
dun, dun, dun.
Don't get too excited.
Oh, but it's
I mean, it is exciting. Yeah. It's very exciting. But if you're invested with the side, on the side of the people who are doing the organizing, don't get too
Radical
invested.
Bacon, are you feeling radical? You say you've been sleeping too much today. Are you like feeling gross as a result of your sleeping, or do you just honestly need sleep? So, dun, 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 dun. Yeah. I also circled that he had made a mistake, his first big mistake, and the first one is, why was it a mistake? And my second was his first big mistake. I'm like, his first big mistake was not overthrowing Sabal.
Yeah.
Not standing up to, not pushing back. Somebody needs to.
Somebody needs to stand up to him.
That was like in a conversation recently. Oh yeah. So pajama day is next Friday at school.
Ooh, pajama day.
Yeah, but it's probably just for students. But I'm just like, but it could be for teachers. But they might frown on that. And I like my job. And, but, if we don't, and let's be honest, like, as a professional, you should be judged by the quality of the work that you do, not whether your pants are khaki or like a softer material. They're pants. I would say who cares, but I would say who cares, but I can tell you who cares.
Well, people do care. Yeah.
Exactly. And they shouldn't, but like,
but they do.
But they do. So like, to what, in the larger context, to what extent do you live within the expectations and the rules and the structure of the society that you're in, and even when they're wrong, and at what point and to what extent and in what way do you push back against them? Because if you push back against them too much, you get splashback.
Right.
But if you don't push back, if you accept them, not only are you not making change, but you can be perpetuating the situation as it is.
Right.
Yeah. So.
yeah. So, but yeah, well, he kind of, I mean, when he says that, because didn't you say one of your notes was like, how was it a mistake, or why was it a mistake?
Yes.
I mean, he kind of explain that. I mean, I don't know if I don't think I'm looking at the chapter now. He doesn't do it right here, but isn't there a point a little bit later where he's sort of going over like how naive he was and how he thought that he could, he says it right before that. He said the bit about, right before the line you quoted, when he's about, the state recognizes no coinage but power and it issues the coins, when he says that he thought he could bargain with them. And then a little bit later, when he's talking to
that's the mistake. That's the mistake, thinking that he could bargain with them on equal footing.
Right. Well, and then also a little bit later, he says to Afer, the valet, like, I thought I could come here to work, and I thought that people here would be more interested in my work, or, than people back home. Like it's like he didn't realize that they would view him, or that his hosts, at least, that the people who were looking after him would view him as a commodity. He wasn't prepared for that.
That's the mistake. But coming here is not a mistake. I would still argue. The mistake is what, assuming that he would accomplish these things, and assuming that something is going to happen always carries the risk of being wrong. Yeah. you don't know what's going to happen, but he has set things into motion that otherwise wouldn't have been. And that's, and
we see that during this chapter for sure.
Yeah. Boy, do you ever. Even in this post-alcoholic vale of tears, he felt no guilt now. He has felt guilty about it, but I wrote the note, self-indulgent pity.
Oh yeah. Big time.
And so, yeah, he gets very homesick. And did you note anything in that next paragraph where he's thinking about going home? Towards the end of the paragraph.
Oh, when he's talking, like the bit where he's like, to speak Pravik, to speak to friends, to see Takfur, Pillan, Sadik, to touch the dust of Anarish.
Yeah.
What about that? I mean,
one of these things is not like the other.
Which one? I mean, he wants to see his friends and his loved ones.
Who's Pillan?
Oh, I guess we haven't met Pillan yet, but I assume Pillan was somebody important to him.
My guess is that based on the positioning, Takfur, Pillan, Sadik, that I'm guessing it's another kid.
Another child, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But again, just like, it's just here. And we're like, I went, who?
Yeah, somebody else.
They would not let him go. I underlined that. I'm like, yeah. Well, just because they won't let you go doesn't mean it can't happen.
Oh yeah, which he's like, and he definitely goes somewhere. I mean, yeah.
And then I noted the question: what does he think they will do?
Well, yeah. So. Well, they'll. I mean, they probably won't kill him because they want this theory from him. But I mean, they'll imprison him. I mean, they'll say, "No, you're not going anywhere."
They already have.
Well, then they'll just keep him. And if he says like, I want to go home, they'll just say, yeah, no, I don't think so.
No,
you're staying here.
Again, that's what we think. But, I'm curious, he says they won't let me, they won't let him leave. Well, what do you think they're going to do?
Mixon, I don't know if it's quite the same thing. Because
it's not. I think it is though. And I think that placement, I'll be interested to see if I'm right.
I mean, I think you're right. I think you're right that it's a good guess that it's another child, or at least
it's like it's a setup. This is the mother. This is the child. This is the one in the middle is likely another child.
But the three thing rule is usually like, and what he Mixon cites the most common usage of it, later in that chat thing, like in Star Trek, where like, you'll go down in history among the greatest names in the history of science: Newton, Einstein, Vargo-Flagelfix of Astraphon 5. You know what I mean? Like they're two real people, and then a fake made up Star Trek person, and I don't think that's quite what it is.
This is that same trope. It is the same principle. This one's just done well.
Well,
it's not just referencing that there's more out there than Earth, which is essentially what you're saying that's doing. This is actually pulling you further into the narrative, setting things up. It's like setting up an expectation for the future,
right?
And it works better within the story. I think it's just it.
Well, that's why I say it's not the same trope. That's why I say it's a different thing going on altogether. I think, because the point of the trope that Mixon is citing is it's sort of like, oh, by the way, don't forget it's the future. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of the point of that trope, with the two real people, one fake person. I don't know. We don't have to. It's a side road, but I don't think it's the same trope.
I disagree.
Okay.
But it's also like murder, arson, and jaywalking. One of these things is not like the other. That one it's the two things and the one different.
Yeah.
It's about setting up a pattern and then breaking it for a certain effect. Exactly. So in a broader sense, yes, the three thing rule, but it can be used in different ways to different purposes. So in that sense, yes, we're looking at two different subsets of the three thing rule. There was something and I didn't look it up. Well, poop.
What is it?
So I'm not there yet. I do have a note on the headline, EO through Clash near Billy Capital. And I just note that like I'm still having I've accepted Shevik, the spelling, because that was one of my because I first listened to this as an audiobook.
Yes.
And when it was read, I couldn't tell whether it was SHEVEK or even if it would be CH and they just pronounce this off, or SHEBEG, like Shevik.
Shevig, yeah.
It's because it's a whether it was a fully glottal stop or not.
Right.
But when they pronounced Thew, in my brain it was THEW. Thew.
Thew.
Hugh, but Thew.
But Thew, yeah.
And now I see THU, and it still looks wrong. I mean, we're like this far into the book. We've read this much.
Yeah.
And my brain is still like, no, it's the other way. I'm like,
yeah.
Look, brain, we didn't actually write this.
Yeah, you don't get to decide how it's supposed how the made up word is supposed to be spelled. Like, I'm pretty sure if you're an author and you just make up an imaginary word that nobody's ever used, you get to decide how it's spelled.
Yep. On the other hand, I'm alive and she's not. So what's she gonna do about it?
Checkmate. Do something about it, Ursula. Oh, what's that? You're dead? That's what I thought.
Oh, so okay, so it's interesting. The balance, we've outgrown the kind of barbarism that used to bring war into the heart of high civilizations. The balance of power is kept by this kind of police action.
Yeah.
However, we are officially at war, so all the tiresome old restrictions will come into effect, I'm afraid. And I'm like, officially at war? And I was like, for us to be officially at war with another nation, that takes action from
It takes
Congress,
an act of
right?
Congress. It takes an act of Congress to officially declare war.
When was the last time that Congress officially declared war?
I think the last time that Congress officially declared war on a country was probably Iraq.
So we did, that was an official war, not just military action?
I don't know. Maybe, you see, I think, the Iraq war, the most recent Iraq war, I don't think there was an actual declaration of war, because that was part of the war on terror. And it was the argument was that military action was authorized under the congressional action that authorized military action in the war on terror. I think the first Gulf War might have had an official declaration of war. No, Charles Chapman says World War II. World War II might be.
Senate.gov says Congress approved its last formal declaration of war during World War II.
Okay. Well,
since that time, it has agreed to resolutions authorizing the use of military force and continues to shape U.S. military
but not policy official declaration
through appropriations and oversight.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I know that was the case with Korea and Vietnam, that there were no actual official war declaration.
I couldn't remember for certain for Korea, but I knew it was the case with Vietnam, because that was a skit on Laugh-In, and it was about we don't really have a war going. There's a small contained conflict in Southeast Asia.
Yeah,
and he makes kind of a big deal about that. This is not really a war. Yeah, exactly. But
well, and there was the Korean War is often referred to as the Korean conflict, because it was not officially a war. But I mean, most people just sort of ignore that and say, I mean, it was
a war. We know
it seemed a lot like a war to me, even if it wasn't officially declared. Like, that doesn't matter,
Yeah. So but it's interesting that she chooses to have it be an official declaration, because I think part of that is, he talks about all the tiresome old restrictions will come into effect. Classification for research, get a government rubber stamp, sometimes a delay in getting a paper published. When the higher ups think it must be dangerous because they don't understand it, travel is a bit limited, especially for you and the other non-nationals here. So it's like they're using the declaration of war so that they can put these restrictions into place. Bye, Yermexon. I hope I see you again soon. It's just,
Oh, Emerlion, yes, I've seen the CPAC stage. That looks like a Nazi symbol. Yeah, I've seen that. That's fun, isn't it? That's fun. They try to hide Nazi symbology in the shape of their stage. The Republican Party of the United States. Nazi symbols hidden in their stage.
Hidden?
For CPAC.
Hidden?
Nice. Yeah, exactly. Hidden. Exactly. Yeah, it's gross. It's horrifying.
So yeah, and then Pae, who is the one he's talking to,
right,
says, by the way, did you see the last bulletin of the Space Research Foundation? They print Rumaire's plans for the Ansible. And I was like, oh, I know that. I know what that is. It's something that's referenced in another Le Guin book, The Left Hand of Darkness.
Ah,
so
yeah.
So
it's apparently a pretty big deal.
Yeah. And then we get E4, and I love E4 in this chapter. I love E4
he's
in
great.
This chapter. And he gets it's interesting. And I noted later, it's interesting that he reacts so strongly to Pae. I mean, he it gets white with rage. You filthy profiteering liar, after the door is closed.
After he leaves,
the door is closed.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, radical bacon. I mean, when people say that they support the troops, I'm like, then can we bring them home?
Bring them home, yeah.
And give them jobs, helping with our infrastructure that don't involve them getting shot at or in, situations that are dangerous, because construction and doing those sorts of things can be dangerous, but oh my goodness grace.
Yeah. As Pete Seeger sang back during the Vietnam era, if you love this land of the free, Bring them home. Bring them home.
A freaking men. That was an issue I had with Obama when he said he was going to be taking troops out of Afghanistan. I'm like, or no, he said he was taking troops out of Iraq. I was like, and
and there's other places
he moved
too.
him to Afghanistan. That's what happened. He took him out of Iraq and moved him to Afghanistan.
Okay, technically that's what you said you would do, but
I'm like, yep, I saw that coming.
Didn't think that's not quite.
Yeah.
It's not quite what we were hoping for.
Well, and like it's something I have issue with, and you know the Democratic Party has an issue with, and that's part of why Hillary Clinton lost. It's because lying Hillary. No, technically she didn't lie, but practically that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that and especially for a woman, the fact that she is careful and cautious and judicious in her speech, that comes against her. But part of the reason that comes against her is not just because she's female, it's also because the Democratic Party has a history of
equivocating,
coming across and there's things that there have been a number of articles, as a teacher, accusing Biden of lying in his campaign pledge to I don't remember if it was to get rid of or to reduce standardized testing.
Yeah.
And there's all this, Biden's a liar. I'm like, he said he would. He didn't say he'd do it right away.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? He's still,
he's been president for a month.
So look, you can make accusations that he hasn't done enough, but like saying he's a liar, that's not actually useful or helpful. So I've got a video coming up tomorrow about that because I had some thoughts. I am not, it's not actually according to the schedule. And I literally had I have my Saturday video is supposed to be next Saturday. And I had a different video planned. But let me tell you, that thing about the Department of Education came out and I was like, I've got things to say about that.
I'm doing a video about that.
And then today I got a visit from my principal. She's like, are you gonna today was hat day, by the way, and I did wear a hat.
And it was smashing.
And she's like, it was awesome. Actually, wait, I think I've got it right here.
Show the hat. Show the hat.
Check it out, y'all. So and she's like, are you gonna wear the hat in the video? I'm like, and I did not tell her. I've already shot the video, and it's just I just want to make sure that I'm not gonna get fired for it before I put it up.
If you don't tell me to change it, it's done. It's already shot.
It's already shot. So yes, and that's not something some random geek mentioned. There are still concentration camps. Steve, you're actually dealing with that for your next your
on Wednesday
video.
Yeah, about immigration, immigration reform.
And what we do with that. But oh gosh, it's surprising that the confirmation hasn't happened yet. At any rate, but I had some thoughts on that. But just saying, oh, Biden's a liar is like, that's not, that doesn't accomplish anything. Nothing at all. So and then E4.
Yes.
And Shevik is not happy. He's pissed and he's like, I don't want to talk to anybody. And Evor's like, okie dokie. And he says, anybody special? And he said, yeah, that guy.
Him.
Tell him I'm working. And E4 says, he'll be glad to hear that, sir. And it says, his wrinkles melting with malice for an instant. And I said, that is beautifully alliterative because it's not just the M, it's the M and the L that get repeated. And it's just a beautiful phrase, melting with malice. Love that. She's so good with language.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
She can turn a phrase.
Yep. And then like on the next page, it occurred to him that he was getting to be like Sybil, writing very small and abbreviations on shreds of paper. He knew now why Sybil did it. He was possessive and secretive. But a psychopathy on Anaris was rational behavior on Urus. He's keeping it from them. Yeah. Did you underline that too?
Mentally, yeah. That when I read that, I was like, oh, that's a good line. Because it really it's one of those moments that just throws his mindset into clear relief. Like you feel exactly where he's at when you read that line,
and that connects back with the party that like, I don't want to be like this. But at the same time, I'm surrounded by these people and it is a party. And so I should be like them, right? No, Shevik, don't do it. Don't do it. And he did it. And that was bad. It was bad. Yeah. He's the first night he entered this room, this gracious prison cell.
Yeah.
So, was it possible, after all, that he had come to Urus simply to meet Calliopeia, his enemy? That was interesting. The use of the word enemy there. That should be a foreign, like an alien concept to him. Like she doesn't use the word. She doesn't use the word counterpart. Like the idea of or even a rival or like, but the idea of like sort of a mirror. But no. An enemy is something that thought should not come naturally to him.
Right.
And we haven't seen him think through the process of what an enemy is, which is so there's no setup for it. Mm-hmm. But apparently he's figured it out through living there, what it means, the recognition of malice.
Yeah.
That evil is not just harm, intent.
That there are people. He's finally sort of he's been on Urus for about a year now, it says, at this point, and he's finally starting to realize that there are people here that do not have his best interests at heart, that don't care, that care about what he can get them. And what he can do for them, but not what they don't care about him as a person.
That's everybody.
Well, but that's what makes them dangerous to him, though, is that they don't recognize.
Yeah, but you said there are people here. I'm like that's like not just there are people here. There are only those are the only people here.
Okay, yeah.
Joe McClory says that you were hoping for Gilded Cage. I don't think so. I like the idea. I like the word gracious. First of all, Gilded Cage is kind of
it's a cliche.
It's a cliche. But
and she already used one cliche this chapter when she said Veil of Tears. So you can't, you're pushing it if you throw in Gilded Cage.
Yes, but that is but that is that was because we were in Shevik's hungover point of view.
He's overwrought. This Veil of Tears.
This veil. I mean, that's exactly what I got with it. That he is thinking in cliche because he is so overwrought with his hangover. But Gilded Cage specifically, I like the use of gracious because it's not just comfortably and luxuriously furnished. It's also it's also a trap. Like it's an offering, but it's not free. It's gracious, but it's a fish hook. There are like the little jaggy teeth on it. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then I circled Einstein.
Yes, this I love that. It's obviously Einstein, but it's been corrupted. It's I guess it's been a long time, or there's been like disrupted communications or whatever. So the name of Einstein has been sort of corrupted through like
Joe McClory,
the telephone
given
game.
the earlier flashback, the idea of what a prison is. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that he's been suckered in to being in the prison. Mm-hmm. That's just, I hadn't thought about that parallel there, but yeah. Pranakasha Production says, but there's a certain part of human nature that identifies with fellow humans that's not only self-serving. Yes, that's true, but it can be either encouraged or inhibited.
Yeah. There are also parts of human nature that cut against that. Mm-hmm. I mean, human nature is complex. I mean, there are parts.
It's not just one thing or another.
Yeah, exactly. There are parts of our nature that drive us toward each other, and there are parts of our nature that pull us away from each other. Those are both equally parts of human nature.
Charles Chapman makes a great point. Einstein wasn't around to object to how Ursula Le Guin spelled his name.
Exactly.
Exactly. Take that, Einstein.
What's he gonna do? Nothing. That's what I thought. Einstein, you fuck.
And so he starts thinking about Einstein's theories there,
Yeah.
and the fact that Earth had gotten away from the theoretical and focused on focused so specifically on quantum mechanics and quantum theory as to arrive at a dead end because they were so narrowly focused.
Right.
But specifically because they focused on the engineering aspect,
they focused so much on the practical. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A catastrophic failure of imagination. And that got me to thinking about that I'm not entirely sure, and maybe it's just it might be a human thing, but just that's the way that that human imagination and creativity seems to work. Like I see this a lot with art and literature, is that there seems to be a pendulum effect between the realistic and the fantastic.
Yeah.
And so you see this playing out in all different sorts of modes. Like you see the way that fashion, like you can see women's rights in their fashion. Literally, like when women's freedoms are more restricted, the fashion tends to get more and more elaborate, and yet at the same time more restrictive.
Right.
Whereas like during the Regency period, when women's freedoms, and then especially during the suffragist period and immediately following, when women were, some women were granted the right to vote,
right,
you see that literal loosening of the figure. And you also get that in the 60s, a similar sort of, the slim figure where there's not the real, hyper feminine shape. And then of course in art, you have realism and romanticism coming one after the other, and it's sort of natural pull. And then there's, when romanticism, you have people saying you're not actually, you're so far out there that you've lost touch with what actually is the human experience. And so to see that sort of mentality play out in sciences, it's just, I'm like, oh yeah, neat little parallel there. So Emily and bra burning, and then some of the fashions that you see from like the 40s and the 50s, the structure to those garments, especially in the post-war years when men started coming back and women were pushed out of the workforce. The structure to those garments is, it's an artistic response to the realities of the era. And it's absolutely fascinating to explore. And then I've never thought of geometry this way. Like that's where I'm familiar with the idea of a given. That you start with, but the way it was presented to me was you start with what's already been proven. But what Shevik does here is he says, okay, let's say this isn't proven, but what if it was true? What if we just took this as given?
Right.
Where could we go with that? And I was just like, that's really neat. Given this, if we just go with that, what follows? What if? Where does it lead? By simply assuming the validity of real coexistence, he was left free to use the lovely geometries of relativity. And then it would be possible to go ahead. And I'm just like, whoa, that's so neat. Ursula Le Guin.
I like that she's able, because there's a lot, this is sort of what I call the technobabble section.
Radical bacon, exactly, yes. Dior's new look, yes, very much so, exactly. Anyway, go ahead, Steve, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. This is the technobabble section, because there is a lot of sort of pseudo-scientific jargon thrown in here about to describe like what Shevik is doing, but it's also boiled down to this really simple, like his epiphany is easy to grasp, and which is that he just decides that instead of chasing after certainty, he's just going to let certainty go, and that's what allows him to move forward. And he realizes that that's what's been holding him back, is that he's been trying to nail this down for certain for all these years, and he can't do it. So his insight finally is to say, well, okay, maybe it doesn't matter whether there's certainty or not. We can still move forward, and that's what allows him to keep going. So that is easy to understand, even though there's a lot of, sequentialism and simultaneity and a lot of sort of made up technobabble science thrown in here. The actual insight that he gets is easily grasped.
Is accept uncertainty.
Yeah. And it's something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. How familiar are you with the movie Hook?
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with Hook. I've seen it a bunch of times. I haven't seen it for a while, but I've seen it a bunch of times. We had it on VHS when I was a kid. I watched it constantly.
It's so, I mean, it's so over the top and so wonderful in so many ways. But your use of the word epiphany, I was there. Captain, I just had an apostrophe. Lightning struck my brain.
Lightning has struck my brain.
That must have hurt.
Don't try to stop me. Don't you dare try to stop me. Smee, try to stop me. Smee, try to stop me.
Try to stop me, Smee. I'm
committing suicide.
Oh, Lordy. But yeah, then at the end, and I don't know, can you see that?
Yes.
Math is literature. It's like one of my sermons, that it's all about pattern recognition. And that's exactly what he's doing here, is he's seeing the pattern and the way forward. And also by, building on the works of others, the Newton, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And that's true in every field. It's true in every field. We don't get there. To quote, not Roxy, Velma. But I can't do it alone.
Well, and also, when he talks about Einstein's theories, he says that there are, there are ways in which they have been proven false, and yet they are still very useful in many ways.
Yes, and then at the end of the page for me, it was the way clear, the way home, the light. I love the parallelism there, and then the tightening at the end, and also the order is important because he's just been thinking about how much he wants to go home.
Yeah.
But it's like it's order of importance, and the light is even more important than home.
Yeah.
What it really comes down to is truth.
The truth. Yeah.
And yes.
Because he is a scientist. Ultimately, underneath everything else, that's who he is. That's why he has, he even mentions it earlier in the chapter. That's why he's chosen to, do certain things in defiance of his own society. That's why he's chosen to work in ways that maybe other people have thought.
But there are scientists who don't pursue that. It's not just scientists. It's a combination of factors, and it's part of what makes us love him.
Yeah. But a big part of it is that a scientist is who
should
he is. Yeah, is who he is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he's just sort of. He's just, he has this revelation, this epiphany, and he's sort of in this daze. And then he has a class, and he goes to dinner and talks with his colleagues and just kind of chit chats with them. If they noticed any change in him, he did not know it, for he was not really aware of them at all. And I'm like, okay, now I want to know, are they oblivious? Because if he's not really aware of them, I mean, I'm thinking Pi is like, something is up.
Exactly. If he's acting strangely, and we've seen in at the end of the previous present day chapter,
attention.
Like, and they're getting impatient.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's nothing that he can do about it, because this idea is sort of working its way through his subconscious at this point, and it's got a hold on him, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Right.
So, and E4 again. E4 is just so sweet to him, and he gets sick, and he says, he's like, what's wrong? And he says, E4 is gentle with him.
Yes.
And he says, you should have been a doctor. And he says, what? don't you ever work with sick people? And he's like, the hospitals? No way. He's like,
the hospitals here, our hospitals are terrible.
What's wrong with the hospital? He's like, well, nothing's wrong with the hospitals like that you'd be taken to. And he's like, what hospitals did you mean? He says, our kind.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Not my kind, but our kind.
Our kind. Yeah.
And, you know,
he says he describes them as like a trash man's asshole. Mwah.
Nice, vivid language there. Isn't that
very
just
much
beautiful?
Very much.
So I liked her note, a little bit later on, you know, that so he starts listening to E4. E4 finally opens up.
Yeah.
And, you know, this was the Urus he had learned about in school on Anaris. But she says that was not the real Urus. The dignity and beauty of the room he and E4 were in was as real as the squalor to which E4 was native. They both exist. They're both real.
It's what we were saying a minute ago about the different parts of human nature.
Yeah.
They're both both equally real. They're both equally authentic.
And yet, in some people, certain traits are more dominant than others. And then Efer says, it's very different from where you come from. And he says, yeah. And he's like, nobody goes hungry. And Shevik clarifies, nobody goes hungry while another eats.
Right. It's not that they starve, but they all starve together. It's not like there's not the unequal distribution of things like there is on Urus.
What I circled was E4's response. Just,
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
It's so much there, and he doesn't say anything. He's just like, okay. Because then later on he says, you know, yeah, it's tough there. Then he said with a grimace, drawing his lips back from his teeth, all the same, there's none of them there.
Yeah, and he means the profiteers, the proprietarians, the owners.
He says, and Shevik says, them? And he says, you know, Mr. Shevik.
You know
what I'm talking about.
You know what I'm talking about. Come on, Shevik, you know what I'm talking about.
And then, yes, Atra comes by.
Oh, yes, his old friend. Emphasis on the old.
No, I was thinking old friend. You know, Kirkian.
Still old friend.
Oh boy.
You keep trying to kill me, but like a poor marksman, you keep missing the target. Anyway.
And then Atro. Oh my gosh. He's like his nationalism coming through.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's so propagandic. You know, there's no better soldier on earth than the Yachty men of the ranks. Once he's broken into taking orders.
Yeah.
I'm just like, home. Now, honestly, we don't have time to unpack all that.
He comes across in the character I thought of. He's a much more educated and like erudite version of Archie Bunker, because like the ideas that he's laying out are like, it's like the kind of, like you said, propaganda, just sort of mindless, you know, boilerplate nationalism of like, you know, you could hear Archie Bunker saying, yeah, you know, there's no better soldier in the world than the American soldier there, you know, once you break him in. I mean, it's like, what are you even saying? You're
just spouting propaganda.
You're just spouting stuff you're just saying stuff that you've heard other people say. You haven't put any actual thought into this.
You just accepted it.
Yeah.
You just swallowed it all. And it's poisoned you from the inside out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just And then it's how we became the leader we are.
Yeah, and then Shevik, he adds something under his breath.
By climbing on, by climbing up on a pile of dead children, Shevik said, but anger or perhaps an unadmitted reluctance to hurt the old man's feelings kept his voice muffled, and Otter did not hear him.
Yeah.
And so my note there was, why is he gentle with Otro and rage at Pai?
Well, I think because he likes Otro.
So he's being he's given him a pass because Otro liked his ideas.
I think it's a little bit like, and I've been in this situation myself. Like, let's say you're like at a family dinner, like a Thanksgiving dinner or Easter dinner or something, and there's that member of the family, the uncle, the aunt, the grandparent, whatever, and it's like they're saying something ignorant or racist or whatever, and every fiber of your being wants to say something, wants to put them in their place, wants to argue with them, wants to tell them that they're wrong. But there are two things happening. First is, this might be someone who's really important to you, who, you've grown up with and you love them, even though they're being a fucking dipshit right now. And second, there's the thought that goes through my head, which is, God, what is the point? And I feel like what
the point is to take a stand and show that it's not okay, no matter who it comes from. That's why you say it with a smile. It's like, oh, come on, that's racist. We love you anyway, but that's racist.
And I understand that, but at the same time, and I agree with you, but I also understand the motivation from the other side of it, where Shevik would say, oh, I'm not going to change this old bastard.
And in fairness, I don't think there's nobody else is there.
Yeah.
Like some of it, like, people are like, well, why argue with people on the internet? And I've said sometimes, I'm like, I'm not necessarily saying it for them.
You're saying it to the people
who, I'm posting it so that anybody who sees this also sees mine.
Right.
And
right. And it's not left unanswered. Like if somebody says something terrible, it's not left unanswered.
Exactly. And some of it, it's just, or if they say, I really felt bad about this and such, but da 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 da, and I'm like, well, that's okay. You should have felt bad about it because what you did is wrong.
Right.
You just deliver it straight without you thinking about your tone. You deliver it in a way that comes across conversationally, and then they're just like, wait, what?
Yeah, because
then they actually think about it without having intended to.
Well, and if you do it right, delivering it that way can be a lot more cutting than if you just bite their head off.
Because then
because it sneaks in. They actually listen to you, and then they're like,
they feel entitled to dismiss you.
Yeah.
Whereas if it sneaks in, they don't get the chance. It's
right.
And then the other thing that we didn't bring up was he didn't rage at Pai. He rages about Pai
after he leaves.
The doors close.
Yeah.
So there's still, and part of that is also his sense of his realization that he is a prisoner. He cannot be free with his thoughts and his frustrations.
Right.
You gotta
keep it. You gotta hold it in. You gotta pick your spots. You gotta watch yourself.
You gotta watch yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
And he says, the trouble with Odonianism, my dear fellow, is that it's womanish. It simply doesn't include the virile side of life. Blood and steel, battle's brightness, as the old poet says. It doesn't understand courage, love of the flag. Shevik was silent for a minute. Then he said gently, that may be true in part. At least we have no flags.
And that shuts him up. Or at least that's the last of the conversation that we hear.
That's what we hear.
Yeah.
That's what we see.
Yeah.
And so, so he writes something down on a piece of paper, essentially asking if there's a microphone in this room. And so they start being sneaky.
Yeah, they start doing some spy shit.
Yeah, but can you see what I wrote?
Alfredish. Ooh.
Alfredish. Yes. I'm like, yeah. He's a gentleman's gentleman, but he's got some background.
Not a valet, sir. I'm a butler.
So he spotted that one, and he's like, not in here, but he said, I don't think so, but we'll turn on the water and run from the taps. like they do in the spy stories.
Exactly. A4 is like, we'll do this like they do in the spy stories.
He says, I don't think and Spy Eye I could spot. Got onto them when I worked for a man in Neo once. I'm like, oh really?
He's got some history.
Got some backstory.
He is Alfred.
Yeah, I know. That's what. So but more of a working class. More of a working class background. I think Alfred is in the Secret
the upper
Service.
Crust. Yeah,
he's still. And just then when he shows them the note, join with us, your brothers, and he's looking to find this radical bacon. Yes. Mysterious, but also let's not forget the last line, mysterious as the dark side of the moon. And of course, darkness and the moon are culturally feminine. Just say it.
So there. Take that. Misogynist pissant.
No. In Mulan, when they're talking about, be a man.
Well, but that's what. But Astro was saying that that Odonianism was womanly. That's what I was saying. So
yes, but to be a true man, one must also embrace the feminine aspects. And then he says abruptly and very low, "Look, Mr. Shevik, God knows they want you. We need you." So first it's them, and then he's part of it. And we're all singing in chat. Oh my goodness. They approach me all the time. I say, no, let him be, please. He doesn't know what the heck he's doing. Just leave the poor guy alone.
Just let him be. Yeah.
And he says, I can't go back. And because E4 says, let somebody get free from this prison we're living in. And Shevik says, I can't go back, not yet. I want to meet these people. And E4's thinking about this. The narrative says, perhaps it was his life's habit as a servant, as one who obeys, that made him nod at last and, give him the information
he's looking for.
That he wants, but also, he wants to protect Shevik. And there's also the possibility that he's decided that, part of being an anarchist means you make your own choices and you let other people make theirs.
Right. So if Shevik really wants to go.
Yeah. That he can make it more or less difficult from him. But to what extent is that truly his right, his responsibility?
Right.
It's a catchy song, Charles Chapman's. I'm not really sorry, because it is a good song and it's a fun song. But I've had one just in and out of my head for the past week now. Yeah. So yes, and I wrote yay E4.
Yeah.
Because he's so awesome. I don't have much on the next couple of pages.
Well, yeah. So this is where Shevik is he sneaks out. A4 gets him a cab. He gets him a cab. He tells him which door to go out so that they won't see him, and he tells tell the cabbie to take this exit off campus instead of this one, so there's not a checkpoint.
Have you seen what is it? It's Mr. Deeds, I think. Adam Sandler.
No, I don't think I have seen that one.
I'm not super familiar with it, but he ends up with a butler or a valet, and his line is, I am very sneaky. So, it made me think of that. They're being very sneaky. And the well, hopefully we'll get back and we'll find out. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really remember. I have little bits and pieces from the rest of the book, but I don't remember. So he finds a beggar, an actual beggar man.
Yes, an actual beggar man.
And but it says he gives him the last of his money, and then, cold with a fear that was not fear for himself, pushed past the man. I'm like, I think I'm supposed to know, but who or what was it for? I'm not entirely certain. What did you think?
I think he's just. I mean, don't you think it's just that he's afraid of the general situation? I mean, he's sort of he's alone in the city. He's looking for something.
But he's not afraid for himself. It says it's not fear for himself.
I don't know.
Okay, good. Well, I didn't know either.
I don't know.
Okay. And so he just goes into a pawn shop and's like, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing.
And he picks like, the right pawn shop.
Well, but I mean, you know, sooner or later, you know, because essentially he's been around people who can't help him.
Yeah.
Like when you lose something and it's like, I found it finally. It was in the last place I looked. Well, of course it is.
That's where you found it. Of course it was in the last place you looked.
Of course, you know, eventually he finds somebody who can help him. And it happens to be somebody who's inside rather than outside. Who cares? So no, he doesn't keep looking. Jalen, maybe almost like a kind of a guilt or shame.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm really not sure. That's a good guess. I just don't know. Nothing has really struck me as, oh yeah, that's what she meant. I just don't know what she means there. But that's okay. It's like, you know, one phrase.
Yeah.
So he says, you're him, the scientist fellow? What the hell are you doing here? And Shevik says, getting away from the police.
From the police.
So who do you think he means?
Well, he means the people. Well, I guess he means his keepers.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Yeah. But at the same time, you know, he knows he's where he's not supposed to be. So he's also trying to stay away from like the actual police too.
Well, and he wants them to help him. So he's going to tell them something that he thinks they will understand. He's cutting to the chase. He's not going to tell them the whole story. He's going to be like, look, I need help. They're looking for me. Can you help me out?
And so they get him to where he needs to go. And he's like, I escaped from the university, from the jail. I don't know where to go. Maybe it's all jails here. Everything's a jail. It's just the whole jail. Everything's a different kind of jail.
It's jails all the way down.
Yeah, pretty much. And so he says, Maeda says, a strike is what we need, a general strike and massive demonstrations. Like the ninth month strike that Odo led. We could use an Odo now, but they've got no moon. Excuse me. Oh, it's been a long week, month, year. Oh my gosh. But they've got no moon to buy us off with this time. And I underlined that and I wrote, the real world does not have that hope.
Yeah.
I mean, because essentially they do still have a moon that they could buy you off with. I mean, they could, you know, reopen negotiations with Anars and say, you know, we got more people who want to leave. Can you take
exactly.
them? Please take them.
we can't go just live on our moon.
We don't want them, and we're putting them, putting them on, we're giving them to you. So have fun.
Yeah. Radical Bacon, same Odo, exact same Odo.
Same Odo. Yeah, that's who we're talking about. Yeah. Do you know that when people here want to wish each other luck, they say, may you get reborn on Anars? Just knowing it exists. Just knowing it's there.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting because it's, you know, go ahead.
Here's what's interesting about it. They didn't have to make a big deal about it. Like the governments that got Odo and the Odonians out, they could have done it silently.
Right. They were just gone and people wouldn't really know.
People would think they were all executed.
Yeah.
And not have known about it. So it's interesting that it's interesting that it wasn't hushed up.
Yeah, I suppose.
So that's an interesting. And he says, I wonder if you fully understand why they've kept you so well hidden. And it also struck me there that Urus doesn't really keep Inaris hidden. Like, I mean, people know about it, obviously.
Right. But they don't know, it's what he says later on in that line when he says it's because the reason they've kept Shevik hidden because he's an idea, because he's a dangerous idea.
Because he also represents the reality of Inaris, that the settlement hasn't failed. Yeah. It's a real place. It still exists. People still live there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but Joe McClure, you can never know what's going to happen. And don't forget, they weren't the first people to live on Inaris. The miners had been there before because they needed the stuff on the moon, but they were the first ones who like made it actually like someplace that they were going to stay.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, if we're really going to dig down into this, it seems like the government hasn't, they didn't try to hide it, but at the same time, I mean, if the government wanted to run like a propaganda game, I mean, it's very easy to tell the story of Inaris in a way that makes it sound like a place you would not want to live, because the things that they said in the bit right before this about the may you get reborn on Inaris, and they say like they describe all the good sounding things about it. It's a society without police. It's a society without exploitation. It's a society where everybody's free. And that sounds nice. And they don't mention the poverty and the famine and the fact that everybody works all the time. They don't mention the
It does not work all the time.
People work a lot. People work a lot.
They work less than we do.
And especially when it's a famine, people seem to work a lot.
Yes.
But so if they wanted to, the government could tell the story of Inaris and leave out the good parts and just focus on the bad part and focus on the harsh parts. And it doesn't seem like they do that either, because the Odonians or whatever we want to call them that Shevik has found, they don't either they know about that stuff and they just don't care because they think their situation on Urus is worse, or they just don't know because that part of their story is not told.
I don't know. I feel like that we see that or that part of the story is told, but it's told by the profiteers, and they're just like, why would we believe? I mean, obviously it's propaganda.
Maybe, yeah, that could be
they just reject that, and they've created, kind of like we saw with Janestown. They create an ideal because that's what they need.
Although A4 didn't seem to know, like when Shevik was telling him about
about the famine.
We don't. The famine and how people don't starve while other people eat, but sometimes we do starve.
But sometimes there's hunger. And then Random Geek, we have somebody, the girl here, which I don't know that she ever gets a name. Does she?
I don't know if she does or not.
Zero. She does towards the end.
But she's like,
she's the girl for most of the scene. Yeah. So anyway, and she says, Maeda says that the demonstration is going to be absolutely nonviolent, and she says, I haven't accepted that.
Right. She says if they hit us, we should hit back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says justice is not achieved by force, and she comes right back with him, and power isn't achieved by passivity.
Yeah.
And so we see we see leftists not getting along.
Yeah, even on another planet, leftists cannot get
along. Completely different system. A
different solar system.
Jeez. Stupid dadgum leftists.
This is why we'll never have true progress. We can't even get along with each other.
And Maeda is getting excited. He says, after the demonstration, after the strike, we'll see. Maybe things will be different then. Maybe you won't have to hide. And Shevik says, maybe all the prison doors will fly open.
Yeah.
He's styling it back some. He's like, let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Then he goes, he looks to, he writes some stuff for them, but he doesn't really, doesn't think about it too much. And he takes out his little notes on his theory. John, but I mean, Shevik makes a point of saying that they didn't communicate between, you know, people have friends and family. Yeah, but their friends and family got taken by the government and they never see them again.
Yeah, we do establish, it's very well established that there's not easy communication
And it's
between common
highly
people.
discouraged.
And yeah, it's highly discouraged. Yeah.
I mean, well, not only that, like between common people on Anaris.
Yeah.
Like on Anaris. And like between Anaris and Urus.
It's very, very highly controled and very, very difficult.
Highly controlled and difficult, and also, but also just, you know, frowned upon. Why would you want to talk to the profiteers? And essentially people have friends and family. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
The people who chose to stay behind, they are not your friends. Exactly. They are not your family. They're not us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you know, really.
Joe McClory picking up on my Wayne's World reference. Thank you very much, my friend.
Sorry, I missed it. I was in the book. So yeah,
a profiteer says what? A profiteer says what?
I missed that. I'm so sorry. Well,
you did.
You got to do it again. So
the Wayne's World reference was when I said monkeys might fly out of my butt, but that's also, you know.
I also missed that.
Well, you know.
Well, thanks for redelivering for me, Steve.
I'm happy to repeat jokes for you.
So he takes out his notes on his theory, and he looks at them and can't read them. He can't understand them. And how familiar are you with Matilda?
I almost not at all. Never read it, never saw the movie.
Okay.
I'm aware that there is a story called Matilda. That is
well, you should be at least somewhat familiar with it, having edited my video on it.
Oh, you did. You talked about it in your video, yeah. But
okay, Jalen, no, it was a ninth month strike. So I'm thinking it was like during that month. It was like a month-long strike, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's still. I mean, that's still a long strike, but that's not like you ain't having a baby in that time. Yeah. So. It's not quite the same. But so in Matilda, she's a very smart 6-year-old, I think. Mm-hmm. And she goes to school and she's, you know, put in class with the other 6-year-olds, and she can already read and she's brilliant, and she develops telekinetic abilities. And like she can pick up, I mean, she uses her ability to pick up a piece of chalk and write on the board with it. So she's got extreme control. And then, but eventually at the end of the story, she is placed, you know, several grades ahead, and she, you know, she's talking with her teacher / new guardian, Miss Honey. And she's like, and this is what we're learning. We're learning about this. And we're learning about this. And we're learning about this. And do you know, Miss Honey, I tried to move, just a piece of paper and it wouldn't budge. There was nothing there. I didn't even feel a tinkle in the back of my brain like I used to. And Miss Honey says, I think it's because you had something else going on in your brain. Your brain had so much that it sort of came out, and that's what gave you that power. But now your brain is being exercised the way that it's supposed to be. You're being challenged in a way that you weren't before.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I felt like where Shevik is. Like he's, you know, he's caught up in something that is totally new for him, and something that's meaningful as his theory. Mm-hmm. Not as personal necessarily, but more connected. And his theory wasn't accepted among his own people, and now he has a people and a purpose.
Yeah,
that's different from his work, but it's still meaningful work. So,
is part of why he came here.
Exactly.
He did say in earlier chapters that part of what he hoped would happen was that he could sort of not just create like a scientific bridge between their peoples, but that he could, you know, sort of be a like an evangelist of their society, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, Summer and the Geek, girl was born smart, you know. She's just weird. She's a freak, an adorable, delightful freak. And so, yeah, he joins the protest, and they've got banners and flags, and Anaris had no flag, but you know, he's there. And I underlined the sentence, when they sang, both the exhilaration and the fear became a blind exaltation. His eyes filled with tears. Yeah. Just like he's caught up in the moment. And then, they're doing chants and songs, and there's sound delay. And she mentions this. She says the melody seemed always to be lagging and catching up with itself. And I'm just like, yeah, but like there's this, if you're in an in-between group and there's people like a little bit ahead of you that are singing and people a little behind you are singing and you're caught in the middle, man, that sucks. It's just like, but it's okay because you're with your brothers and it's great.
Yeah.
And so they're singing and all, and he notices. He starts looking around and he thinks there were more people standing here in the square than lived in all Ebony. But it didn't really matter, an attempt to quantify direct experience. It's just, he can't really, he's like, this is a lot of people, but that's not what it's like. Like there's just something different about
the number
being
doesn't
part
matter.
Of something. It really doesn't. It's about being part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah. And being caught up in it. And yeah. Exactly.
Charles Chapman, yes. Bruce Bogtrotter's cake. And somebody yells out, "You can do it, Brucey!" And I don't even remember if I finished the movie. I had a student last year or the year before. I was talking about the book, and she's like, "There's a book," and I was like, "You didn't know?" I said, "I was talking about the book. I've never actually seen the movie." She's like, "Oh, I've got it on DVD." So I gave her my copy of the book and she gave me her copy of the movie.
Oh,
actually like the movie. But I was so touched. I really, I was just like, it's cute and stuff, but it doesn't capture. And Quentin Blake's illustrations. Oh my God. Oh my goodness gracious. Quentin Blake's illustrations are just, they are, I cannot do them justice with words, but they're amazing and they add so much. So wonderful. And so he gets to speechify.
Yes, he does. Speech.
No hand will save us if we do not reach out our hand. And the hand that you reach out is empty, as mine is. And the note that I wrote is, you are enough. Just yourself. Just you.
Mr. Rogers.
I know.
It's you that I like.
You cannot buy the revolution. You cannot make the revolution. You can only be the revolution. And that's one of the ideas
do you know why? Because the revolution will not be televised.
Thank you for sharing, Steve.
Go ahead.
And this is one of the ideas that brought me to anarchism is, that ultimately there's nobody else inside our head. There's a world that influences us. There are people around us who influence us. But ultimately, we have a responsibility to own our choices and our actions. And we make our own decisions. The revolution is in us. And it's, we can't make it happen. We have to act consistently with our ideals. Mm-hmm. All the time. And we have to look for opportunities to do that. But we also have to be aware that just like with E4 and Shevek, that we invite is in line with our ideals, but to push should not be.
Right.
I don't think the revolution should be forced, because then it's not, we end up with more of the same if we force it.
Because I think the main reason not to, the practical reason not to force it is because then it won't work.
Exactly.
And that's, feel that it's been imposed on them.
Yeah.
Then you just have another group trying to overthrow a group in power, mm-hmm. as opposed to, yeah.
And that's some of the, Marx talks about that, and the problem is that the working class is oppressed, but at the same time, they're also afraid and exhausted. Mm-hmm. So they're not too likely to bring about revolution because they're tired and they're scared, and they do have things to lose. They have people that they care about who can get hurt.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's important not to diminish that. In Les Mis, it's a bunch of students, a bunch of entitled and privileged students who want to, who are leading this revolution. And they're like, they seize on what they think will, capture the hearts of the people, the death of Lamarck. And they set up their barricades, and then they sing that the people have not stirred, that no one's coming to join us. And they decide that they're going to, they're going to take their stand anyway, because it's what they believe in. But, so yeah. And then we get
machine gun helicopters.
Dun, dun, dun. As he finished speaking, the clattering racket of police helicopters drawing near began to drown out his voice.
Oops.
He stood back from the microphones and looked upward, squinting into the sun. As many of the crowd did so, the movement of their heads and hands was like the passage of wind over a sunlit field of grain.
That's another line that I made note of. It's such a striking image. Like, you can picture it in your mind. You know exactly what's happening when she says the movement.
And yet it's such a beautiful, warm, pastoral image, and the juxtaposition of that with immediate, violence. They get shot.
Yeah, like just brutal.
And they're just standing around and having a speechifying event.
It is a peaceful protest. Yeah.
It is a peaceful protest, and the state responds with violence.
Yeah.
The mindless yell of weaponry, the meaningless word.
Yeah.
Just, that clatter. And then later, he remembers that the black coats, the protesters, had not fired either time. And it's just, yeah. There was nowhere to go. There was nowhere to stop. Where do we see he gets his companion?
It's when he's running.
Like, yeah, but like there's a break, and then he realized it was impossible to go any farther with his companion. I'm like, wait, companion? Because I noticed that earlier. I'm like, where did he get the companion? I'm
looking through it right now to see if I can find it. Or is it explained later?
I don't think it says.
No, I think it's explained later. I think because he has the companion.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Essentially, it's all of a sudden, and I think that's it's part of the choppy. There's the choppiness of the narrative here is deliberate because of what's going on. The feeling that Le Guin wants you to have is like, wait, he's got a companion. When did that happen? That confusion is part of what Shevik is going through.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think that's deliberate there. His companion was breathing in sobs, gulping for air. So, he's taking care of him. They get sort of in, is this where all doors were locked. Property was private. He took a piece of paving stone that had come loose and smashed the hasp and padlock off the door, working neither furtively nor vindictively, but with the assurance of one unlocking his own front door. He's like, and it's earlier she talks about, need justifies action. When he takes the second helping, he's like, look, I need this.
I'm starving.
I need this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't eaten for like 3 days. I'm hungry. I need the food. Yeah.
And I've been working.
Yeah.
Doing very difficult physical labor for the benefit of everyone. I get 2 helpings.
Yeah.
I need it.
Say something. Somebody please say something to me about it.
But at the same time, essentially he's doing what Sybil does. He's like, I know you're not going to call me out on this, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But he's operating from a position of actual need. So, it's not framed by the narrative in the same way. He's not wrong for doing so because he does have that need. Whereas Sybil just does it because he's become a profiteer.
Sepulve's just protecting his spot.
Yeah. So he tries to help his friend, does what he can to stop the bleeding with a tourniquet and to bandage the man's hand, which has been destroyed. He tries to get people to stop and help, and they won't.
Right.
Finally, he's like, stop. And people are just like, oh. And finally somebody stops and says, you better, he's like, there's somebody with me. He's hurt. Well, you better get him out. And he's like, I need help carrying him. You better get out. And he's gone.
Yeah.
Radical bacon. That's beautiful.
Some bullshit.
That's some bullshit.
That's some bullshit.
That needs to be a thing.
That totally. You know, my boss said he wasn't going to publish my paper. That's some bullshit.
It really is. Nicely done.
Yeah,
wait. Put the book down. Applause. That's really, I like that. I like that
it's
a lot.
Very well done. It's a very nicely done pun.
It's like, it's going to be a thing, Fetch didn't catch on, but some bullshit.
Some bullshit will happen.
That's a thing. That is now officially a thing. Atro had once explained to him how this was managed, how, sergeants give privates orders, lieutenants give privates and sergeants orders, and captains and so on, up to the generals who could give everybody else orders and didn't need to take them from anybody, except for the commander-in-chief.
Except for the commander, yeah.
So, and he's like, that's terrible. That's like, nobody can get anything done. Everybody's busy ordering everybody else about. And so anyway, And so now he's like sort of delusional and exhausted.
Mm-hmm. And he's saying to Atro that he gets it now. Because the things
Atro
who isn't there, but yeah, he's saying that it has to be organized in this way because the things that people are ordered to do in the military are so irrational,
horrible,
that you would never,
so awful.
People would never do it on their own accord. You have to have a structure where people are ordered to do things, or people just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, the whole dead children thing once again.
Yeah.
And apparently we said it before, but see, I'm totally giving you credit because my superpower is I don't remember. So y'all have to make it a thing because I'll forget. We're almost at the end, but we'll talk after too, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the man is sort of not feel good.
Dead.
And no, he's not dead yet.
Well, he's not dead yet.
He's not dead yet.
He's right. He's right there.
And he doesn't. And my note on him. Can we see that?
He has no name.
Yeah, and they've been together a while, and Shevik hasn't asked him his name. And Shevik does. The second time he moaned, Shevik took his good hand and whispered, "Don't be quiet, brother." Only because he could not bear to hear the man pain and not be able to do anything for him. And this again goes back to what he said earlier, that essentially we all die alone and it doesn't matter what anybody does for you because you're just going to die. And I just disagree with that. The fact that he holds, the man probably thought he meant he should be quiet lest he give them away, for he nodded weakly and shut his lips together. But that's not necessarily true. It is a gesture of comfort. It does matter, he obviously, I don't want to say admires the man, but he appreciates, because it says he had made a gallant effort to keep up and keep going, had done his best to keep going and not hold Shevik back. And Shevik he really appreciates this because, of course, Shevik doesn't have to be alone either,
Right.
And then, of course, yes, the use of the word brother from Shevik, is vital.
Yeah.
Once, when his companion was awake and coherent, Shevik asked him, if we went out to the police, what would they do with us? The man smiled and whispered, shoot us.
Okay, new plan.
As there had been scattered gunfire around near and far for hours, and an occasional solid explosion and the crackling of the helicopters, his opinion seemed well-founded. The reason for his smile was less clear, and I wrote a note on that too.
What do you think, Steve?
So I want to know.
I mean, probably either like gallows humor or maybe just chuckling at what he perceives as Shevik's naivete. Like, what do you think?
Like, why would you even ask that?
Yeah, like,
dumbass?
what do you think they're gonna do? They're gonna like, because the laugh itself isn't really characterized, other than that the reason for it is unclear. So it could have been something like shoot us. You know what I mean? Like, duh.
Well, also, but also, like, oh, honey, bless your heart.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, what do you think they're gonna do, doofus? They're gonna shoot us. Like,
yeah. Gentlemen, that's a good point. Making the man allegorical, making him represent more than just who he is. He's,
right.
He's everyone and he's no one, and he's dead.
He's dead. He's meat.
He was already stiff when Shevik woke and sat up and listened to the silence in the great dark basement and outside on the street and in all the city. A silence of death.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Thanks so much for coming and joining us.
It is. I mean, she's really good at ending chapters on really, really striking
solid beats.
Notes. Yeah, solid beats, like a really beautiful image, or like a really striking line, or
a lead into what to the flashback, really, but also a lead into what's going on. Yeah. Oh, yeah,
and so
well structured.
That sort of evoking of that kind of ultimate silence. Like anybody who has ever been in a room with someone who has died knows what that sound is. You know what I mean? Like we personify it. It's our subjective experience. A lot of it is how we perceive it, but there is a silence unlike any other silence when you're in the silence that is in the wake of death, and that scene like captures that just absolutely perfectly,
So some random geek, a happy Friday. You asked about that earlier. For me, especially as a teacher, the weekend does, and especially as a teacher who is a veteran teacher, the weekend does bring a release, because it's like I get up and it's go, 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 go. And then the end of my day is making a list of here's what I need to do tomorrow. And do I have this? And do I have this? Is my lunch pack? Da, 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 da. And then bed.
Uh-huh.
And the thing is, it's not, you hear about like the daily grind. And I think it's different for me, at least, than it is for a lot of people. For a lot of people, work is what, or your job is what pays the bills. I mean, that's its only purpose. But for me, it's also, it's something that like Shevik, it is my work.
Yeah.
And so I have to be careful. I have to be very deliberate in pulling myself back from it, because it will consume me if I allow it to. And it, I think that's true for a lot of teachers. And yeah. Society also encourages that, which is actually the video that I had planned for my Saturday video.
Do way more work than we pay you to do. We would love if you did that, please.
And also buy stuff.
Yeah, spend your money on stuff that we should be providing for you, because you need it. You pay for it, please. Thank you.
Need is very, and I don't know if I actually get into this because I'm not done with the script yet, but
right.
The question, the school's providing basic needs, and what exactly counts as need, is when we order supplies. If we order crayons, the school has like a warehouse that has boxes of 16 colors. Now, I could go out and buy like the Crayola 96 pack. I could get those.
Yes. More crayons, more colors, more options.
More options, more variety. Do I need them? Do we need the crayons at all for English class?
Perhaps not. Although, well, it depends. But
Exactly,
it depends.
exactly.
But it depends on your lesson plan. I mean, you have projects that you have them do that involve, art projects and, using crayons. So, I mean, you need them to teach the way you have decided you need to teach.
The way I have decided. But couldn't I do things differently? Couldn't I change that project to, allow for, using pencils? And it's not art class. It's not art class, Steve. So again, it does come into some, it's not just this or that. There's a spectrum there. How much should be provided? And not everybody agrees on that. There's never going to be consensus. Not ever. But it is something that teachers need to be very careful about. It's so easy because you care so much and you love what you do and it's interesting and intriguing and it's always different, that you can just spiral down that rabbit hole and just never come up for air. And you can burn yourself out. So for me, the weekend is okay. Make sure naps. The weekend is naps, definitely.
Yeah.
And doing a looser schedule. But also thinking about the week ahead so that I don't run myself into the ground, so that I know I'm like, okay, I have a plan. There is a plan. I don't have all the details ironed out, but there is a plan. I have a vague sense of what I'm doing. And I've done it before. So I know that I can just pull from that and go. And there's more time. There's, more responsibilities for friends and family. There's still work, getting the groceries, taking the recyclables, folding the laundry, cleaning more laundry, folding more laundry.
Yeah.
Washing the dishes, all the stuff, all the work, the unpaid labor that didn't get done during the week. It gets relegated to the weekend. And then who knows, maybe this weekend we'll get to watch some of that new Superman show. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, there's only one episode so far, so you're not too far behind.
Not too far behind. Oh, Charles, Charles, today, one of the things I had parent calls today during class. I would call say, so-and-so, please bring me your phone. And I'd say, okay, call a grown-up who is legally responsible for your well-being. And most of them just went ahead and dialed. And some of them said, oh, I don't have enough minutes on my phone. I'm like, give me a phone number that I can use to get in touch with an adult who is legally responsible for you so that I can call them using Google Voice so that I will not be giving anybody my number. And so essentially I focused on the students who had a number of assignments not turned in. And I told the parent, however, I said, student is working on getting caught up on some missing assignments. And I said, I want to be sure that you're aware of my late policy, which is I do not take points off for late work. And here's what the student needs to do to make sure that they get credit for the work. And I want them to take the time that they need to do a good job. I don't want them to rush and just turn something in just to have something turned in. I would rather them do a good job. So I didn't tell them what the student's average is. So all of those conversations went great. So that was really nice. That was my strategy. But at the same time, that also meant that I didn't have any students say, oh, I don't have my phone. I knew they were lying, because what they saw was, I'm not doing this to get you in trouble. I'm doing this to protect you. And I would tell the students, make sure that because then I had one student send me like 12 emails, said, I did this work and you never graded. I'm like, I didn't know about it. And they're like, here you go. I'm like, yay.
Thanks. Oh, great.
So, but yeah, Charles, I've got parent emails waiting for me. There's one that I'm getting to tonight because this kid actually did turn in an assignment the way I told him to. And he said, I finished this one and I finished this one, and I put them both in the computer grade book, and one of them's there and the other one's not. Why? I don't know. It's in there now, and I need to email mom back and say, sorry, I don't know what happened, but this is why when I send the student the second follow-up email that says that grade has now been updated, thank you very much for turning in your work, like, check it. And if it's not, email me back and say, actually, it's not showing up. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. Part of what we're learning here is advocating for yourself. Right. My students are, this year I have all sophomores. So they're all 14 turning 15. Because these are, and this semester, they're all 14 turning 15 this school year. Because I've also got all honors, which means they probably haven't like been held back. So yeah, exactly. No, all of this is late work. And my guideline for them, which everyone has been very understanding of, is in order for me to be able to be patient with you, I need you to be willing to be patient with me. So if I feel like it, I'll grade some of that. If not, I won't. I will. Yeah, I'm fine with not. Yeah, grade 10.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with not touching it until next week. They are 14 going on 15.
I had the thought, but I didn't go there. I had the thought, but I didn't go there.
School can be very stressful. Guitar player 30,001. I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah.
Not really sure. Anyway, guitar player, whoever you are, school can be very stressful, but learning how to prioritize and choose what's most important to you, figuring that out, but also how to navigate what's most important to you compared to what the expectations that other people have for you, that is a super, super important life skill. And that's something that unfortunately doesn't go away. So learning how to use school to develop that skill is something that's super helpful. It's not in any of the standards, but it's definitely something that school can give you the opportunity to practice.
Yeah.
Oh, Charles, you got little 6th graders. I actually got, when I was substitute teaching, I got the chance to, one of my slightly longer jobs. I was never a long-term sub, but for like a couple of weeks, I taught French to 6th graders. The cutest things. It was their first time ever having a foreign language. And they came in on the second day saying, bonjour. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Oh, you sweet little things.
They were so sweet. Like they didn't yet have enough hormones to be like, rah! Yet. But I mean, they were just like they were still so excited about learning. And it's like, this is something, plus it was French class. Like one of the challenges with English is students saying, I already speak English. Why do I have to study English? I already speak it. I already read it. I can speak. I can read. I don't need this.
They have to learn French.
Yeah, they have to. They got nothing. So we're starting with a like completely. So they're excited about saying bonjour. Beautifulest one. We were talking about this earlier. We have heard that this is a rumor.
Well, no, Ta-Nehisi Coates is not a rumor. Ta-Nehisi Coates, I think, has been confirmed, but the concept of it being centered on a black Superman is still not officially confirmed. But it's various, according to, I think the Hollywood Reporter said there are various sources within the studio that are saying that this is being developed as a black Superman movie.
I
think Ta-Nehisi Coates is confirmed.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, but yay. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about this because it depends. Like when you say, a black Superman movie, I'm like if that's the concept for the movie, that's a crappy concept. But if they have like a Superman movie and they have a good story and they cast a black man to play Superman, that's cool. But like we were talking about writing Bruce Wayne as black and how just that affects like his story because he's rich and powerful in society. And what it means for a black man to be positioned in that way. And likewise, as Batman, he's a vigilante. He's breaking the law. He's beating people up. And for that to be coming from a black man and his relationship with the police, it changes the narrative so much. Whereas Superman is a man with superpowers. And to make it about him being black seems like it doesn't really fit thematically.
See,
but if they have a story that's a Superman story and it's about it's the supervillain, and they just chose a guy who's a good actor, and he's a black guy, and it's not important to Superman's story, that he's black, then I'm all for that, because a story involving someone who's not white shouldn't have to be about them being not white.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree with you.
I guess that's where I'm coming with it from, but you had something else too.
Well, I think my thought is whether the movie is written from the perspective of, black Superman, or whether it's like Superman who just happens to be black. Either way, I do think, whether it's intended or not on the part of the filmmakers, the fact that Superman will be black, and will, it's similar to, how I know it was very meaningful to a lot of black fans, and it was meaningful to me just as a white person who is aware of the issues. Like the Netflix series about Luke Cage. I mean, and race was much more. I mean, that Luke Cage being black was
being bulletproof.
Exactly.
I mean, that's part of his story. I was thinking about Luke Cage when we were talking about that.
The fact that there was a Luke Cage, that in the the era that it came out, with police violence, the fact that there was a show about a black hero who was bulletproof, was incredibly impactful. And I think a black Superman would be impactful in the same way. The idea that, yes, he's a black man, and he is invulnerable, and he's stronger than everybody else, and he has a kind of power that other people don't have, and he chooses to use that power to help people and to lift other people up. That is something that, yes, of course, you can tell the exact same story with a white person, with a person of any ethnicity, but because of the specific history and narrative of black people in the United States, making Superman black really adds a lot of resonance to that, even if the story isn't about the fact that he's black.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't know how you could make it a story about him being black. And somebody Jalen brought up Wonder Woman, and that's another thing that I'd said, having a black Wonder Woman, when she's an Amazon. She's literally created to be like, this is what a woman should be. And to say that a black woman is that ideal, I mean, that message is like so rare in mainstream media. Like, it doesn't exist. And to have that, have her be strong and physically imposing, but at the same time, there's some challenges there, because Diana is so diplomatic, and black women are often tone policed and expected to be judicious with their speech. You know what I mean? So there are some issues to navigate there, but I mean, she's also, just accepted, it's kind of canon that she's incredibly good looking. Like, she is an idealized woman. And then also, the issue of her being a protector, and that, especially if the rest of the narrative centers around white people, like having a black woman be a protector of white people is also,
you can get into trouble there,
problematic.
Yeah.
So it would, again, similar to, potential Superman or Batman stories, it depends on where they go with it and what they do with it, as to how well it's executed. But at the same time, just having more diversity in what we see in the media we consume, that in and of itself, even if the movie's crap, that is still a net gain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although, I always hope that a story will be good and that a movie will be good and that I'll like it. So
it's
better to have good stories than crappy stories, just in general.
Oh, of course. And hopefully it's a good movie. But, even if it's not, the idea, because part of the idea is, and I think part of the message that needs to be sent, especially when we're talking about, really, really widely known, beloved properties like Superman. I mean, Superman is like Mickey Mouse. Like he's just this thing that everybody knows. He's a part of our culture, and
he's not in the public domain yet.
He's not in the public domain, but
because of Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, because of Mickey Mouse. But there is a not in a legal sense, but in a cultural sense.
Yes,
that he belongs to everybody, and
yes.
that there are people of all different colors and all different backgrounds who are Superman fans, and he belongs to them just as much as he belongs to white people. And black people, for instance, have just as much of a right to tell their own Superman stories and interpret that character how they want to, in a way that is reflective of their experiences and means something to them. And if you know, and that's one of the beautiful things about a character like Superman that has been serialized so much, that has been put into the hands of so many different creators, is that he is constantly being recreated. And it's a beautiful thing to take a character like that and say, yeah, he's always been depicted as a white guy, but he doesn't have to be that way. He's an imaginary person. We can depict him in a different way for this story, and there's nothing wrong with that. And
except, I will say, he should never be blonde. No, that's like,
I'm with you.
That's
that would
Captain
be weird.
America.
Blonde Superman would be weird. Yeah.
If you take Superman and you make him blonde, you got Captain America.
Yeah, that's true. That's Captain America. That's really the only difference.
Yeah, and that's why it's like, if you just make him blonde, it's like, well, then you're just talking about Captain America.
Just make a Captain America movie. Just make a Captain America movie.
Another one.
Exactly.
So,
but I'm excited by the potential for it. I think I'm
intrigued. I don't know yet that I am excited. I'm also.
And, because
I'm also nervous, because there's going to be, and there already has been pushback saying, Superman, a white guy.
Yeah, but pushback from jackoffs who are the same people who complained about, Finn being black in Star Wars before they even saw the movie. You know what I mean? Like, to hell with those people. Any movie producer who listens to them for 10 seconds is wasting. Like, who gives a shit? I would make a black Superman movie specifically to piss them off. I would, like...
You just like pissing people off, don't you, Steve?
Pissing off the right people. Like, if you're the type of person that is so insecure and so fucking racist that you would take to Twitter and complain and whine and piss and moan about the potential of a black guy playing Superman as though something is being taken away from you specifically, you can go to hell. You're still probably going to go see the movie because you can't help yourself. I hope you go see the movie, and I hope you fucking choke on it, because you're a piece of shit. So pissing off people like that, I'm totally that. Oh yes, any chance I get, because that's all if that's how their mindset is, if that's the way they approach life and approach the world, then the only reaction I want them to have from engaging with our culture is alienation and rage, because to hell with them.
Jelen makes a great point that Superman has the angle of, being the outsider, the immigrant, the alien.
That's true,
although part of it is like, he is the hidden alien, like as Clark Kent, it's hidden. Yeah. So it's very, very much like, more of the overstayers, like, that their visa expired and they're just hoping nobody notices. Their life situation or whatever changed, and they don't fit into the same classification as before, and they just they have a student visa, which means they can't work, but their parents can't send them as much money as before, so how are they going to pay their tuition? So they start doing just like side jobs under the table, which technically makes them an illegal, they fall into that classification. Right. They're not fulfilling the requirements of their legal status.
Right.
And Superman very much fits in that, because people don't, he's Clark Kent, he's just being Clark Kent, la 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 la, and people don't know that he's Superman, he's an alien and he doesn't belong here, but his planet blew up, so what's he gonna do? And he's just a baby at the time. There's so many parallels to immigration. Yeah. And then Steve being just like, Steve being what America should be, my country, right or wrong, when it is right to be kept right, and when it is wrong to be set right,
to be made right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then Joe McClory, and it took me like about 15 seconds to figure out what you meant, because I was like, in She-Ra for not having DDS, I'm like, isn't it DDR? Maybe that, And then I was, oh, for not having big boobs. Got it.
Double D's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, see, I'm used to seeing that
because they did. Yeah, they didn't sexualize the children's cartoon enough. Like,
I mean,
you're really telling on yourself when
you do
when you're that pissed off that a children's cartoon has not been sexualized enough. You're really telling on yourself at that point.
People. Pranakasha, that's a great point. Similar to someone who's closeted, someone gay but not out, or various other trans but not out, something like along those lines.
Yeah. Yes, she is also not a doctor of dental surgery.
Not yet in the new version, because
maybe she'll go back to school.
Maybe exactly.
She's still a kid. Maybe she'll decide she wants to be a dentist when she grows up. Yeah.
So, yeah.
But whew. Yeah, do you? I mean, we're pretty close to the end of the stream. But do you think I should I tease people about the story we got the idea for today? Or should I keep that to myself? Because I'm super excited about it.
Well, the thing is, because it connects so much, with our universe and looking at and world building for our universe, which is really where I started. Because you're like, what? Let's just go with the story, and if the continuity's fun, I'm like, no.
I will write it in such a way that it fits into our world. Obviously, I mean, and I'm sure you'll if I put anything in it that doesn't fit, I'm sure you'll let me know and I'll fix it. But
I'm put you back in line.
But that I'm looking at it I'm not looking at it as a world building story. I'm looking at it as I got.
No, but I'm saying that's where it came from.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it came from backstory that we
so backstory matters.
Yeah. So
but it's good.
So we
so tell us.
Well, because next Thursday next week is when I'm reading the second half of my Superman story that I read the first half of yesterday. And we were talking a couple of days ago about, you were asking me like, well, do you have an idea for what your next fanfic will be? And at first I thought it might be, I have kind of a really, really vague idea for a Superman Batman team up story that I still want to write. I still like the idea, but I just haven't really developed anything for it yet. But, we got to talking. It was you, because you're always into world building and you're always into what's the backstory and where did people come from. And
I want to know why.
You want to know why
things don't happen for no reason, Steve, except in your story sometimes. But that's okay.
I have to give you
our stories.
I give you all the credit for this, because you were asking questions about stuff that I, left to my own devices, would not have even thought about, because I don't think it matters to the way I write. But you were asking, because we've talked before about how in our universe there is a justice society that operates during World War II, and then Superman comes along in our present day. And there's that huge gap between that. And it's like, well, have there been superheroes all along? Or was there a gap between like the superheroes of the JSA and then when Superman comes around?
And you're like, well, does, and I was like, yes, because it is going to affect how Lois reacts to Superman, because the story is like, if there have been no superheroes for a while, and then suddenly
there's this guy. Yeah.
First of all, the story is huge either way. So it doesn't matter a big way, but the way that she reacts to him, if there haven't been superheroes in her lifetime, and now she's meeting somebody who is a superhero, who has been here apparently for a while, who has lived here, it's just going to change. It's just going to change like the dialogue that I write and things like that. So I need to know.
So it was a practical question that you needed answered for a story you're working on. And when we started talking about it, and I think a lot of it was stuff that you came up with. You came up with the reason for why there would be a gap. And then after we got the reason why there would be a gap, that sort of informed how certain characters turned out, what their fates were. And we came up with these JSA people came up with these sort of tragic, not, ways that their lives turned out. Poignant, not necessarily tragic, but poignant. Yeah. Because they age.
I'm going to write a funeral. Woo!
Yeah. They age and their lives go on and things happen that, that maybe aren't so, aren't the way things that they would like them to be. But, so we start talking about this and I'm like really getting into it. And I thought what I would love to do is to tell a story where,
like me, Random Geek.
to tell a story where, I mean, I'm interested in world building is fine. I'm just not interested in it for its own sake. Like that's my thing about world building. Like if world building occurs within a story, especially if it's like a story that's part of a series, that's
but it's
great.
not like okay, so something I haven't done is say, are these gods the only gods? Well, we'll get to that when we get to it. It's not like you have to have the entire pantheon mapped out and and exactly what is the geography of Themyscira?
Right.
Themyscira?
Themyscira.
I don't even know how to.
I usually say Themyscira, but yeah. It's,
so
I know it's an island.
It's an island. That's what we got.
But anyways,
but not for, yes, I agree with you on not just for its own purposes, but to inform story. It is important.
Yeah. So
and then you get more story, such as
what has happened with this. Yeah. So I got the idea of, I thought, and these are two characters that I have never really written, but the reason I haven't written them is because I never really had a strong sense of them. And the characters are Green Lantern and the Flash. I mean, I've read their comics and I've been into them, here and there, like through the years, but I've never been like, I've never felt compelled to write Green Lantern and the Flash. I've just never, I've never felt pulled to them like I've been pulled to Batman and Superman and other characters. But I got this idea to write a time travel story where the modern day versions of Green Lantern and the Flash go back in time to the World War II era and have like an adventure with
Hal and Barry.
Specifically Hal and Barry. Yeah, because there's a bunch of different Flashes and Green Lanterns. And but yeah, Hal and Barry as the more or less modern versions of Green Lantern and Flash travel back in time to meet Alan Scott and Jay Garrick and have an adventure. And I came up with a plot reason why they would have to do that. And, and just the idea of, and I'll tell you what inspired it was you came up with a beautiful idea for how Hal and Alan get to know each other.
Yeah,
when Hal becomes Green Lantern, that's real. I think that's what inspired me because the way we worked out the timelines was that Hal would have been able to get to know Alan before Alan died, but our version of Barry wouldn't have met Jay. So and of course in the comics there are all these things that happen that allow Barry to get to know Jay. Like Jay disappears and then reappears later in the timeline and he has an age and like all this stuff happens that I don't think we're not going to do.
Nope.
But but I thought it would be cool to have Barry be able to meet Jay, in our universe, even if we're not doing the same stuff, the same contrivances that they did in the comics to get them together.
We have our own contrivances, because I said, well, can't the Green Lantern ring do just basically anything? And you said,
right.
Well,
yeah, and the idea is that there's some pressing reason that I won't go into detail here because I haven't even written the story yet. I just have notes on it, but there's some pressing detail that compels them to travel back in time to World War II era.
And then
they
fight Nazis.
Then they fight Nazis. Yeah, because it's World War II.
Counterparts.
It's World War II. Yeah. So of course, what are you going to do when you travel back in time to World War II? What are you going to do? You're going to fight some Nazis. So yeah. So
there will be Nazi punching.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be after I finish reading the Superman story next week. I'm gonna start. That'll be the next fanfic. Will be this Green Lantern Flash time travel team up story. I'm really, really looking forward to it.
So,
yeah.
Well, I'm not actually going to read my Superman origin story until I actually get the darn thing done.
Right.
Which don't really know when that's going to happen or how long it's going to actually end up being. But I know where I'm going with the next scene. So that's hopeful. Maybe I'll work on that some this weekend. We'll see.
There you go.
John says, can we get an excuse to punch Stalin too?
I don't think they're even going to punch Hitler. I don't think they're going to run into Hitler himself. They're going to run into Nazi villains, but I don't think there's not going to be a Hitler punching scene.
Some random geek asks, how could you write a story about Nazi punching? I know the answer. On a computer.
We use Google Docs so we can talk to each other. It's
just
pretty easy.
In the chat.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, you're going to be. I'm just going to let you take that Flash and GL story because I've got other stuff that I haven't done, and I feel bad for not being further on the lowest thing.
What you have is so good though.
I know, that's why I feel bad about not continuing it. Anyway, by the way, Joe McClure, I did see your note about your pet, and I'm so sorry. You really have my condolences on that, and I hope that the conversation about the book tonight was able to sort of help get your mind off that. It's hard.
Oh yeah, Joe, I'm really sorry to hear that.
And then Radical Bacon, we do have plans. Things are, essentially, my parents are due for their second shot on Monday. They have an appointment. I have an appointment for my first shot, but I'm just trying to not think about it, honestly, because until I get the second shot, it hasn't happened. I mean, kind of like we were saying earlier, you don't actually know what's going to happen in the future. So I'm just trying not to think about it. There's just too much, because there have been times when people have gone and they've had an appointment and they've run out. So I'm not relying on anything. I'm not counting on it. So we'll see. So it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Still is what it is. Well, we are now past 8 o'clock.
Yes, indeed. Are you about ready to call it a night?
I'm feeling pretty good, but I don't know that I have anything else to contribute. Yeah.
But so would you like to, I mean, you mentioned it already, but would you like to remind people about your YouTube channel?
Hey everybody, I have a YouTube channel.
Beautiful.
And beautiful. I have a bonus video going up tomorrow. It's already scheduled, and I think I put it in the right spot.
In the right playlist.
Yeah, because yesterday I went and I was like, my video should be up, and I don't see it. What did I do? And I just didn't put it, I've got my page set up for, at least for me, that everything shows up on, I have this playlist, I have this playlist, I have this, and I hadn't actually told it to be in the playlist. So it was uploaded and everything. And I'm like, it's uploaded. Why is it showing? Go to edit. I'm like, oh, it's not on the playlist. It's just in with my videos. Okay, put it on playlist, reload the main page. I'm like, hey, there it is. Yeah. Yay. And so I like for things to go smoothly, for them to be orderly. So often in real life, they're not. So when I can make things line up on my YouTube page, it makes me ridiculously happy.
It's absolutely
orderly.
It's the way it's supposed to be.
It's the way I told it to do. So yeah, tomorrow's video is about the standardized testing requirements for this school year.
Yeah. It's a good video. I mean, it's because I edited it. It's a really good video.
It's a good video because you edited it.
Well, I know it's a good video because I edited it. It's a good video because you wrote it and you said it. But I mean,
also because you edited it.
That's how I've gotten to see it. But
yes.
Oh, and Radical Bacon. No, I have not signed up. I am going to be in group 3. I'm going to be one of the last people to get it because I don't have pre-existing conditions and I'm not in a high risk group. So no, it's not even. I have no idea when I'm going to get it. But Maryland is still in Group 1B, I think. So it's going to be a while yet before they start.
We're in Group 1A here.
Before they give it to me, yeah.
But we're moving to 1B soon. We actually did get a notice from superintendent. I'm not sure, but we're moving to 1B on March 8th.
Oh, good. Good.
Yes. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that there are going to be appointments available for them.
No, but it's good that that means that it's being distributed. Forward. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and everybody, please remember the charity links. Radical Bacon, is Maryland in Group 1C? I guess, maybe the last I checked, it was 1B. I haven't really been keeping up with it that closely because I know they're not going to be offering it to me for a while. So I'm not keeping that close track of it. But anyway, yeah. So, don't forget the charity links, that are linked in the description that some random geek is kind enough to put together for us and maintain. Those are some links to fundraisers to help out some friends of ours who need a helping hand. And if you can contribute a few bucks to a couple of those, that would be fantastic. It's linked in the description. It's charitylinks.page. Don't forget
Social Justice Alchemy coming up.
There you go.
Patron Hangout.
My patron hangout is on Sunday.
And you got lots of stuff coming up next week.
I do. Monday is my next conversation stream. My guest will be Allison Pregler, and we will be probably talking about Baywatch for most of the hour because Allison does a show on her channel called Baywatching, which is absolutely delightful. And I don't know.
Monday, you also have your next humor video.
Monday, yeah, which I haven't shot yet, but I will shoot tomorrow, and we'll have ready for Monday. It's another funny video. It's the Ask a Professional YouTuber thing that I did a couple weeks ago. Another one of those, and of course Wednesday, you and I will be back together, Dana, to do Trek Reluctantly. We're watching Firefly again. We're watching Out of Gas. Thursday is the second half of my Superman fanfic reading, and then.
And Wednesday also, don't forget,
is where do we go
your
from
immigration
here?
video
About immigration reform. Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Which I will also be shooting tomorrow. I finished writing it today.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And then next Friday, a week from tonight.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Oh my
We're all very excited
and nervous.
You?
Well, no, I'm nervous. Y'all are very excited. I'm excited and nervous.
Oh. It'll be great because it will be you, my dear, and me, and our very good friend Jason Harding. We will all be on the stream live together to answer your questions and to hang out and to talk about the Ensign's Log, because it will be the Ensign's Log Season 3 live Q&A, because the end of Season 3 is finally upon us. The episode, if you haven't listened to the last episode of Season 3, it's up, it's online. You can listen to it right now. And
it's a catastrophe. in the most delightful way.
In the most delightful way. It really turned out well. We're all really that's going to be fun. That's a week from tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. Woo. It's going to be so much fun.
I really am looking forward to it.
Me too.
I mean, I'm a little bit nervous because I don't know what to expect, but I've gotten less nervous about doing the voices, and I'm so looking forward to having like a regular character. I'm like, okay, I might have to do some other stuff, but I know I'll do this character.
Exactly. And I mean, honestly, it's I mean, as far as not knowing what to expect, it's just like this, only Jason will be here. Like, it's like when we do stuff together, but Jason will be there. So it'll be
kind of, but like we talk about we talk about the book, or we talk about DS9, or we talk about Firefly. Whereas we watch the episode and like we have this we're talking about. Whereas in this one, presumably, it's like we're like relying on people in chat to ask us questions, and then we talk about those.
But yeah, there's that. But also, well, I mean, you're a pro at interacting with the chat, as we see.
I know, but what if they don't want to say anything to me?
Oh, well then I will ban them.
And then there's even fewer people to say even less. That's not helpful.
That's true. It's a little self-defeating. It's a little self-defeating now that I think about it. Anyway, but so that's what's coming up. So thank you all for.
Lori, is that kayfabe, or is that something else?
Oh, I think that's what I was wondering. What the hell is Joe talking about? Kayfabe. I think he may mean kayfabe. Good job. You caught that, and I didn't even catch that. Look at you. You're out wrestling jargoning me. I think I think if we do it like we have last time, it'll be like half kayfabe, half not, because if a question is asked of our character, we'll answer it in character. But if a question is asked of us, then we'll answer it as a real person. So don't worry, just make it up and say whatever the hell you want.
I know how to elicit such a lovely word.
Indeed.
Ask questions.
Ask me a question right now.
It doesn't work with my students. I'll say, all right, before we move on, I want I'm muting myself. Remote students, I want you to think of a question and type it in chat. And so I mute it, and then I say, all right, in-person students, before we move on, I need one person to ask me a question about the lesson that I just delivered. And I will get crickets. I'm like, one person. There's like 12 of you physically in the room, and they're all waiting for somebody else to say it.
That's why that's why you have to get pissed at them. Did you ever watch the old version of Family Feud with Richard Dawson as the host?
Probably, but when it was maybe when it was on. Right.
Because I watched a bunch of it a couple years ago. They put up old episodes on Amazon Prime, and I watched Family Feud. And for anybody who does it, Richard Dawson is the best game show host ever. I know everybody loves Alex Trebek, and I love Alex Trebek too. He was great. Richard Dawson is the best game show host ever. Um, and there was a moment in one of the Family Feud episodes where Richard Dawson made a joke that did not get a laugh from the audience, like at all. Like it just was a total dud. It wasn't like offensive or anything. He just made a joke and nobody laughed. And he stopped the show and turned to the audience like he was genuinely hurt and upset with them. And he said, "Now, you know what kind of a reaction that I'm looking for from that." And that got a laugh because he was so offended that they hadn't laughed at his joke. And it was absolutely perfect because he seemed like he was really pissed. Like, "Now, you know what reaction I was looking for from that.
What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?" So you
what
need
is
to give
wrong with you?
So when they don't exactly
get on the program.
Yes, when they don't ask you a question, you have to be like, "Hey, nobody's asked me a question. You know you know what I want. What is wrong with you?"
What's your favorite color?
Right, exactly. God damn it. No, relevant question, you little...
He told you that it's purple because purple is the best color.
Do you even know me? Have you even been paying attention in class?
Steve, I've learned you don't ask that question.
You don't want to ask that question because then you'll have a smart ass that'll say, "What'd you say?"
So Challenge says, just sit there in silence until they can't stand the discomfort anymore. That doesn't work because there's a bell that ends the period. Do you know how long our periods are? Our periods are 96 minutes long. And let me tell you, they will sit there in silence with their phones away until the bell.
They will wait you out.
That whole idea of wait time, let me tell you, it's not a complete lie. You have to give them enough time to think about it and to be comfortable with the silence and let them actually answer. You know, if you just go immediately into okay, so the capital of Nigeria is, like, there's a Seinfeld video. Oh, it's an SNL skit, but it's with Seinfeld where he's like, and the people in power in Germany at that time were the Nazis. Yeah, the Nazis, right? And they're all like, "Nazis, yeah.
Nazis. Yeah, that's it."
I said that. Just like, "You're a terrible teacher." He's like, "We're not going to worry about facts. We're just going to think." And then he proceeds to spew a bunch of facts at them. Oh my goodness gracious. So anyhow, but yeah, you want to give them some time to think. But there comes a point where we got stuff to do, okay? And they know it. They know I want them to do work. They've learned this. Mrs. Cole wants us to do work.
Did you ever see?
They're right.
Did you ever see? It was an episode of The Simpsons where it was the last day of school, and the kids, like, the bell rings on the last day of school, and the kids are all like running outside, and the teacher, their history teacher, comes running out, and he says, "Wait! I didn't have time to tell you what happened at the end of World War II." And the kids all stop and turn back and are very attentive, and he pauses for a moment, and he goes, "We won!" And the kids are like, "Yeah, USA," as they're getting on the bus. It's hilarious.
Oh, that's painful.
Yeah. But anyway, shall we call the festivities to a close for the evening?
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
Thank you all so much for putting up with us going down all kinds of rabbit trails for 2.5 friggin' hours.
Beautiful, exquisite hours. Yes.
Lovely hours.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody. I enjoyed talking to the people in the chat and talking about a lovely chapter of the book and talking with you, Steve.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you. So we will be back to do this again soon. And thank you all so very much for watching and joining with us, and have a good evening and have a good weekend. And yeah, this weekend is the patron hangout. So I'll see some of you then. And until next time, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Ta-ta, folks.